The preservation of and increased access to the 92nd Street Y Humanities Audio Archives is generously funded by the National Endowment for the Humanities.
No, and something that should be preached in the houses of religion. Very little of this type of religion has as yet found its way into the prayer and worship of modern man. While it is important to utilize the traditional forms for the sake of the sense of historical continuity, which is indispensable to normally functioning religion, and to reinterpret them in terms of such religion, it is even more important to create new rites and rituals that would articulate in no roundabout fashion the most rational. Now please note the three dimensions of the conscious and of religion. The most rational, that's in the dimension of reason or intelligence; moral in the dimension of wisdom; and spiritual in the dimension of the spirit, spiritual conception of God. The objective of these new rites and rituals should be not merely the satisfaction of existing wants, but the transformation of character or personality, or what is termed in religion repentance or regeneration. Well, you have a chance now to write out, please, I have a few minutes to write out whatever questions you have in mind. You can look through your notes that may probably remind you of certain questions that may have arisen as I was speaking. I cannot avoid giving all this material, and I cannot see how it will be possible to follow, to see the connection, unless you had this outline before you. And a bare outline that would give only a few words would not be satisfactory. As a matter of fact, I think when you go home and you look over the outline, you will be able to get perhaps more out of the lecture even than while listening to it. That's also a psychological fact. Thank you. Now, the first question, hasn't enough doubt been cast upon the traditional materialistic scientific attitude to the universe in the recent discoveries of astrophysicists to make a supernatural interpretation of religion more tenable? That's the first question. I shall answer it before I entertain the next question, which is on the same card. The statements that have been made by astrophysicists in recent years merely make the point that our knowledge of natural law is not sufficient to warrant us denying any kind of miracle or any kind of phenomenon that seems to contravene what we know now, natural law. That is as far as these scientists have gone in their discussions. They could not go any further because whatever goes beyond that is really outside of their own field. And the fact is that the problem of miracles or the supernatural is in that field which lies outside the field of astrophysics. It lies entirely in the field of history. The question of the historicity of the miracles, and not their scientific or philosophical possibility, is the question. And from a purely historic standpoint, none of the miracles so far recorded in any of the religious literatures or traditions has been able to work up enough evidence to warrant credence or belief. Not a single one. Whether it's the story of the creation of man, or of the Tower of Babel, or the flood, or the miracles that occurred when the Israelites crossed the Red Sea, or the standing still of the sun, or all the miracles in the New Testament, the miracles that Jesus worked, the water turning to wine, or his passing over the lake Gennesareth, or of course primarily the basis of Christian religion, the resurrection of Jesus. Not a single one of these miracles can be regarded as historically tenable. Such miracles are recorded in every religion. They are part of the mentality of every ancient civilization, for the simple reason that the imagination of men played fast and loose with facts and enjoyed creating imagery that was more the result of wishful thinking than of factual reality. And then there is also the consideration that basing religion upon a miracle is bound to prove a source of evil and disintegration in human life, because it diverts the mind from attending to the function of reason or intelligence, which should be occupied with the discovery of the proper relations of means to ends and causes and effects. If, for example, there is starvation in the world, if we are to have the miracle type of mind, we continue praying for food to be produced, instead of discovering a new method of cultivating the soil, of irrigation, let us say, or of fertilization, and other ways in which we are diverted by stressing miracle as a basis of religion. There is enough of the, if you will, of the extraordinary, of the remarkable in the natural. To me, the planting of a seed in the soil and to watch it grow, in your own home, you have a plant and you put in an orange seed or a citron seed, and you see it sprout. Can there be anything more miraculous than that? Isn't that enough of a miracle? And it is that type of miracle, however, in which we see a relation of means to ends that we should cultivate. That type of a miracle would make for what I speak of as the function of normal religion. Now, the second question. By adopting this supercritical approach to traditional religion, are we not destroying the very source from which all beliefs you ascribe to religion emanate, namely faith? It is not true that faith is the source of religion. I have never indicated that it is the source of religion. Faith itself must be traced to human needs, and the need which gives rise to faith, that is, the faith in life, the faith in ourselves, the need derives from that which is found in the unconscious as well as in the conscious, the need to be ourselves and at the same time to be integrated within ourselves and as part of the larger relationship in life. That is the source of faith. Faith is synonymous with all values, as I indicated before. When you speak of values, you are not speaking of facts. When you say that a thing is good, you can't prove that it is good. You simply say, on faith, I think this is good. I think the truth is good and that the lie is bad. Why? I can't prove it. Good is, it's a good in itself. That's an object of faith. And you don't have to resort to tradition to prove such faith. And the fact is that unless your faith or your religion derives from your personal experience, which may be reinforced by tradition, unless that is the case, you have at best second-hand religion, not first-hand religion. And most people's religion is second-hand and not first-hand. The next question, how shall we go about transforming and unifying religion to this psychoanalytic concept? Shall we change the name religion? Well, the one way you're sure to defeat the purpose mentioned here would be by rejecting the name religion. That would be the surest way of getting people to disagree with you and to prevent you from actually bringing out these values. You have to approach the problem of religion in the same way as you approach the problem of education or government. Government that today is abnormal, education is abnormal. What do? You don't say we won't have government, we'll have anarchy. We won't have education, we'll have what? Play. No. You simply make up your mind to find out what is the cause of the bad education. You find it's due to the ignorance on the part of parents as to the purpose of their sending their children to school. They think, for example, that the main purpose of the children to school, first place, is to keep them out of mischief or to make it possible for the women, the mothers, to do what they like and be free of them for several hours in the day. And secondarily, it is to give them, to train them for some trade or profession. That's the main thing. That it is the purpose of education to train the character of the child occurs to very few parents. If they would realize that, then they would realize that they must contribute to that by educating themselves in terms of character. Then you would have some kind of a decent education. The same is true of religion. Religion functions poorly. Well, go to the people who are the religious teachers and leaders. Go to the congregations. Tell them, why do you come together as a church or as a synagogue, as a congregation? What is your purpose? The purpose just to have a kind of social club where you get, you want to play bingo or you want to have a dance. That's very nice, but that isn't religion. The function of religion isn't fulfilled in coming together once or twice a year and saying prayers which you don't understand what they're all about and you simply go through a habit. It's all mechanical. Try to understand what religion is. Let your rabbis, your teachers, teach you these functions. That is the business of each and every person. In doing that, we would at the same time be improving ourselves. It's a big job. You can't improve religion apart from the rest of life. Naturally, it's all part of one process. And what I'm telling you with regard to religion, I'm sure the educator will tell you with regard to education, and the political reformer will tell you with regard to politics. Is it not true that most people undertake psychoanalysis, leave their religious ideals for another ethic? Um, of course, people undertake psychoanalysis in different ways. Some take it in the wrong way, some in the right way. The main purpose, the normal purpose which people should go in for psychoanalysis is to improve their mental health, their happiness. And that's a very important purpose. People should recognize there's nothing to be ashamed of in being unhappy. It's just a person is no longer ashamed of having a cold. There was a time when people were ashamed of having a cold. You don't realize that. And it's also, by the way, an ideal, isn't it, in the famous Utopia, Airborne. In that famous Utopia, everyone who catches a cold is imprisoned. In ancient times, everyone who caught a cold was regarded as a person who must have sinned and therefore deserves that punishment. And he was ashamed of having a cold. So now people are ashamed of being unhappy, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. It has to be dealt with. But a person, you say, will not go and cure himself of a cold in order to be free of religion. He goes to the doctor. There were people, undoubtedly there was a time, you see, there was a time when the religious teacher, the rabbi, the priest, was the doctor. Well, the time came when people, when real physicians who knew the causes of physical disease developed, and instead of going to the priest, he went to the doctor. The result was that people who went to the doctor were regarded as atheists. You see, they don't go anymore to the priest. And the fact is that there's the medieval saying is, I think it's physicus ut atheus. That is either a doctor. The doctor is an atheist. The term doctor in the Middle Ages was a synonym for atheist because he knew about physical troubles. Therefore, and since he was the rival, you see, of the religious teacher who used to cause physical troubles, therefore he must be an atheist. Otherwise, there's no function for him. Now, that's exactly the situation that is being repeated today with the psychoanalysts. Anyone who goes psychoanalyst seems to be rejecting the rabbi or the priest, and therefore the psychoanalyst must play the role of the atheist or discouraging religion. Now, that's all nonsense. That'll all pass away when people become better informed. As a matter of fact, not even Freud was, in the real sense, an atheist. Although he wrote his The Great Illusion to denounce religion. It was not religion as defined in this lecture, I assure you, that Freud would object to. On the contrary, that falls entirely into the category of the framework of his thinking. But what he did reject as a neurosis was the many traditional forms of religion, which is discussed in the lecture that I gave you in no more complimentary terms in a way than they are discussed by him. Now, the next, would you say that ethical culture is the nearest approach to the type or form of religion you describe? It's an approach. There's also there are other forms. There's also religious culture of some kind that is as near, if not a nearer approach than ethical culture. But ethical culture, in turn, you see, in rejecting the term God, though it does not reject the term religion. I mean, it may be of interest to you that the Ethical Culture Society is registered in governmental documents as a religion. It rejects the use of the term God, and in doing so, it fails to recognize an important psychological concept without which it cannot carry out its very ideals. It will, however, I'm sure in time, arrive at such a conception. As a matter of fact, Felix Sadler himself did arrive at a conception of God. It was different from the traditional one, but it was as a matter of fact, an approach toward it. I would say Felix Adler's ethical culture is the nearest approach to the type of religion that I describe, although it lacks, again, the recognition of the part played by historical religions. And the whole element of historical continuity, its ethical and spiritual value, is overlooked, even by Felix Adler. The next question, is the term God, as you use it, different from the traditional idea of God? It is not different from, it's simply a different expression of what the traditional and what even pagan ideas in a way try to express, but simply for lack of the sufficient reason, was unable to express properly or adequately. All religions try to express this idea of God that was the basis of this discussion. But they do it in the terminology of their general culture, which is lacking in the full development of reason or intelligence. What particular religious denomination would you believe the thrust for power, and why? Well, in a sense, every religious denomination at present makes a thrust for power, our own or the Christian religion, Mohammedan religion. Every group is, in a sense, a power group. I think you cannot say for example, that the Quaker group is in a sense a power group. I think that therein the Quaker group today has proved to the world better than any other group, Jewish or non-Jewish, that its interest is really in doing good in the world, and that is why it has won itself such a place in the respect of mankind, and why it is treated by friend and foe with equal regard. The Quaker group is very small in numbers and has its defects and its weaknesses, but I think that among religious denominations, it is the one that can least be accused as making a thrust for power. Every other religious denomination does so, depending, of course, upon the size and the organization of the power. There's no doubt, I don't think it would be denied that the Catholic Church makes the greatest thrust for power politically. It is all over the place, and it has succeeded very greatly. On the other hand, the Episcopal Church and the Presbyterian and the others, and among us, the Orthodox and the Reform and the Conservative group, each one in its way, in proportion to its actual numbers, is making a thrust for power. Because they each regard power as indispensable to their survival. Would you define in geopolitical scope, the advances and retrogressions of enumerated values in the world today? Well, that would constitute a discussion of contemporaneous civilization. It's a very tempting challenge. I could write a book on that. It's to write in terms of these values that I've enumerated, which civilizations make for reason, intelligence, and so on, which stress love and the others. On the whole, there's only one fact, I think, that stands out. There's no question that the two parts of mankind into which the world is divided today, the East and the West, that the East represents very definitely a high development of intelligence, reason, devoid of the dimensions of either the ethical on the one hand or the spiritual on the other, that is, of wisdom and spirituality. It treats wisdom and spirituality as itself part of means and ends and cause and effect. This is what you mean by materialistic or dialectic materialism. The very term dialectic materialism means very definitely that all of human life exists in one dimension, the dimension of reason and intelligence, efficiency, means and ends. And what you talk about is wisdom, goodness, truth. Those are fancy words used simply to decorate or ornament your power. And the reality is power. It must be in the hands. There's the difference is that whereas in the past power was in the hands of the few, henceforth powers must be in the hands of the many. Well, we know what it means. We say power in the hands of the many. How can the many manage power? Well, then they've got, of course, to elect a few leaders. Then what do you get? Then you get your dictatorship. So you come back to where you originally were. On the other hand, the Western civilization talks a great deal, although it has as yet done very little to live up to. Still, the talking is something, and it may lead to action. It talks about, at least, life in the three dimensions, in terms of all the values that I've enumerated, and says that democracy means bringing love and wisdom abreast of the achievements of intelligence. In that large way, I think I have answered the question about the geopolitical scope of the advances and retrogressions. Is the next question, is there meaning and significance in the object or goal of beauty and creativity and the creation of a beautiful and well-ordered environment? Is not this goal as important as truth and goodness? I personally distinguish between beauty and creativity in the first place. I regard as creativity any manifestation of human life in any of the dimensions. The element of beauty I personally place in the dimension of reason or intelligence instead of in the dimension of wisdom. Because beauty simply means the aspect, the creative aspect of intelligence or reason. That aspect which the human conscience expresses as a result of the surplus energy which the human mind possesses, which it does not use up in the elemental needs, in its food and shelter and fighting. The human being has surplus energy which he expresses as play. In the child stage, it's play. Play is creative. It's the creative aspect of reason. And beauty is the creative aspect of the dimension of intelligence. There is its place. Certainly, I mean, when I speak of bringing, of developing the intelligence and reason, I think that mankind has made tremendous progress in the domain of the beautiful. But that has not prevented him from being cruel and bestial, as even all the Nazis made a point to foster art to a very high degree. Hitler himself was a lover of art. He dabbled in it, but that did not make him in any way any less demonic. Beauty is compatible with the demonic. In fact, some of the modern manifestations, I think, of art, I don't know, I suppose you think I'm crazy, are more the expression of the demonic than of the divine. Maybe there's room for the demonic in human life, provided you don't regard it as the only type of expression. I suppose it's a helpful thing for the demonic to be out in that way channeled and controlled. The next is, while I find your concept of religion far more meaningful than the concept of a fearful, obedient worshiper who loves God in constant worry over his wrath and revenge, still I cannot reconcile the use of the term religion and God, spiritualization and so forth, with a true freedom, with a true inner freedom that psychoanalysis will give to the individual. Freedom to accept complete responsibility for his acts, acceptance of responsibility for his own manipulation of a chain of events. In other words, not turning to something outside himself. Perhaps it is just a difference in terminologies. Well, I really think it is just a difference in terminologies. And the point that I'm trying to make is that that very freedom to accept oneself, to accept responsibility, is fundamentally the idea, the entire psychological drive in man which has functioned in various conceptions of God. And if we'd only literalize that conception in psychological terms, I think we'd be much better off. The only comment I would make on this question is this, that when you speak of accepting responsibility, you necessarily imply integration or belonging, integration into a larger entity. Now, the moment you speak of integration to a larger entity, you indicate at once that true freedom does not mean, as I said, freedom from all responsibility, but it's freedom to act as a responsible being. And that which it is the very aim of psychoanalysis to achieve, that inner freedom, is achieved when about being helpful. Otherwise, we really can't achieve self-esteem. Self-esteem cannot be narcissistic. Self-esteem itself implies transcendence of self. And this transcendence, together with the self, both of them constitute the polarity that spells God. Religion, the religion as you outline it, would have meaning for superior intelligences such as this group listening to you now. How would you reach less astute minds, those who accept traditional religions and rituals? Now, the problem that is addressed here with regard to religion is a problem that is addressed with regard to psychology. Now you say modern psychoanalysis is it for superior intelligences, or a way must be found whereby modern psychology will become as much common knowledge as, let us say, algebra and trigonometry. Now, every person of any standing education goes to high school and learns the elements of geometry and algebra, just to be able to understand the language. There was a time when only the most learned few, 1 in a million perhaps, would know geometry. Now, just every high school boy and girl, and almost everybody is supposed to at least to have gone to high school. Now, the same is true with regard to religion. It is just as easy and just as difficult to popularize religion as it is to this kind of religion, as it is to popularize psychology. You have now books on psychology. The thing is to have just this kind of book written about religion in a better language than I can express. You see, you need a popularizer. I wish I'd have one who would popularize this lecture. And for me, I'd have to struggle myself if I don't find anybody to do it for me. But if it's popularized and other people do likewise, it can become common knowledge. And the vocabulary of everyone, it need not at all be for the intellectually elite, as we are. If the miracles are not true, the true means of bringing religion to the people, How do you explain the success of the Catholic Church? There comes the success of the Catholic Church, this latest being the rising of the Virgin Mary. Well, you might as well say, by the same token, if materialism is not the true means, let us say, of politics, of economics, it's a wrong approach. Totalitarianism is a wrong approach. How is it that you have hundreds of millions of people now adopting totalitarianism? People get sugar. I mean, this is part of the world mishigas. And I assure you that in comparison with the totalitarian mishigas, the Catholic mishigas is very limited in scope. It is. I mean, it's simply today hysteria. You have mob hysteria. And if a number of people yield to that hysteria, I don't think there's anything to be surprised at. Some people can withstand it. Same people. Mob, I mean, the mob sentiment is like a plague. It spreads. It's contagious. The next is, your exposition of the aims of religion is laudable. Well, I'm glad to see that every one of the questioners prove I'm very happy. I mean, really, I am very pleased. Please indicate its method of implementation. Would you propose reconstruction in Judaism, Catholicism, and after that what? Well, first let's have reconstruction in Judaism and Catholicism. I'd be very glad anyone wants to have this idea spread to other religions. And please note that the idea of reconstruction along these lines is spreading, is catching fire in some minds that are non-Jewish. I know that in many colleges the Reconstructionist version of Judaism is being taught, and taught with a view to indicate what is happening to religion as such, so that would not at all be far-fetched to indicate, to suggest the same kind of approach in other religions. Will you please sum up or give your definition of God? Again, it's very easy. That's the point. There's nothing impossible. I can sum it up. My conception of God, not merely definition. I mean, the way I actually experience. I mean, I'm not ashamed to tell you that to me, God is just as real as this, as you are in front of me, as I am myself. And just as real, it isn't anything mystic. And you say, now, in what way? Now, don't think I'm crazy when I tell you that. Don't think I hear voices. I don't hear any voices. I'm just very sane, and just as amenable to reason as you are. But the feeling that I have in myself, a drive that gives me a sense of responsibility, and at the same time that drives me to identify myself with my people and to do all I can to help my people know itself and attain the goals for which it has been living all these centuries. Whatever little service I can render as a teacher in clarifying people's minds and in dispelling wrong notions, that drive in me I regard as actually God in me. And each one of you in his own way. Now, for example, I was reading an interesting book on psychoanalysis not long ago, in which the doctor dedicates his book to the patients. And he explains why he dedicates the book to the patients. It's all because he says in every psychoanalysis, the patient, in revealing his life, actually contributes so much to the knowledge of human nature, and in making that contribution, he's helping human life. Now, you see, properly viewed, how a person renders service to the rest of mankind. But if he knows it and he recognizes it, then he identifies the God in him. It's a matter of localization. Again, instead of localizing God with a text or with a tradition or with a story or with a miracle, I find that the localization should be within ourselves and in the group life. In the group life, which makes for proper responsibility. Now, just one more question, I'm through. If in the non-sectarian religious training we stress patriotism, which is national aggrandizement, how are we to reconcile these values with a more inclusive universal outlook and the drive toward more highly integrated civilizations? I said that it is the function of non-sectarian religious training to spiritualize patriotism, to take it out of chauvinism, to eliminate the element of national aggrandizement. That should be the function of non-sectarian religion. Without such religion, patriotism is bound to become narrow, isolationist, chauvinist, and cruel. Thank you.
Thanks for listening. For more information on the 92nd Street Y, New York, and all of our programs, please visit us at 92ny.org.